While the past few years have challenged our assumptions, they've also made one thing abundantly clear. Our industry is recalibrating. And in that recalibration, we're finding resilience, innovation, and opportunity. The Real Estate Roundtable's latest sentiment index came in at 68, which is well above the neutral benchmark of 50. While it's slightly down from the prior quarter, that number demonstrates that investors and owners remain confident in the long-term fundamentals of commercial real estate. The exception remains the B and C office segment, which continues to face structural headwinds. Capital markets are still tight with many of the players on the sidelines, but what's important is that they're not withdrawing, they're simply delaying. And we expect to see increased transaction volume in the latter part of this year, especially as we gain clarity around interest rates, inflation, and trade policy. In the first quarter of this year, transaction volumes overall were up 11.3% year over year. That's a signal of recovery, but it's a divergent market with multifamily and industrial leading the way, while office volume drops about 17.8%. Cap rates are resetting with office the highest at about 7.7% and industrial the lowest at 6.4%. But the good news is that after 2 years of decline, property prices are climbing again. Yardi's Matrix reports a national office vacancy rate of 19.7% in the US, with CBDs being hit the hardest. Construction is down significantly, and only 8.2% of new inventory is in CBDs. This sector is beginning a long-term transformation. It won't be painless. It is not happening as fast as we would like it to happen, but it is happening. And as we've said before, this sector was overdue for disruption. We're simply working our way through it. Industrial, on the other hand, continues to be strong as it evolves from pure logistics to things like data centers and advanced manufacturing. The near-term wildcard is trade policy, which could inject some short-term volatility, but the long-term outlook for industrial remains solid. So where does this leave us? We're in a period of reset and recalibration. AFIRE, the Association for Foreign Investors in Real Estate's Pulse report shows that despite our new administration making dramatic policy shifts, 44% of foreign investors plan to increase their US commercial real estate holdings. That's nearly double from last year. That's confidence in the fundamentals of the US commercial real estate market. But these investors are prioritizing sustainability and digitalization. 95% of respondents cited energy performance and energy management as a key factor in determining whether they will or will not invest in a property. 59% of respondents are actively integrating AI into their operations, and they're looking to invest in buildings that deliver efficiency, intelligence, and flexibility. And this brings us to the tenant and workforce experience. Gensler's Global Office Workplace Study found that workers actually want to be in the office more often than they are. But only 26% of workers believe that their current workplace helps them do their best work. If we flip that, that means that 74% of workers view the office as an impediment to them doing their best work. That's not just a design problem. That's a retention problem. That's a problem getting people back into the office. The modern workplace has to go beyond pure functionality with cubicles, lockers, equipment. It needs to incorporate natural light, flex space, multi-purpose rooms, and wellness amenities. These are no longer competitive advantages, they're table stakes. And when workers are in these sorts of environments, they are 2.5 times more productive. They're 3 times more likely to stay with their current company. They're more likely to feel valued, and they're far more likely to say that they are proud to work for their company. All of this based on the office space that their company provides for them. That's the power of our industry. And we're already seeing the future of workplace design take shape. Look at the Winthrop Center in Boston's financial district. What sets this development apart is its integration of work, wellness, and community. It includes passive house certified office space, a multi-level public gathering space known as the Connector, and a Michelin-starred food hall. It's more than just a building, it's a workplace ecosystem. And this is what modern workplace looks like, purpose-built to energize, inspire, and connect. And just as our buildings are evolving, our approach to workforce strategy needs to evolve. As I'm speaking with leaders, their number one challenge continues to be attracting, retaining, and developing talent. But here's the demographic reality. Based on our current structure and approaches, we will not have enough workers to fill all of the roles we need. AI and automation will help, but they are not the total solution. Today's workforce is more generationally diverse than at any point in history. And to have a modern workforce and retain our talent, we need to understand each generation and how their formative experiences influence how they work, how they communicate, and what they expect from us. I'm going to start with the silent generation. While not many are actively working today, our structures and our systems are still based on this generation, how they work and what they value. This generation was shaped by the Great Depression and World War II. In the workplace, they respected authority, seniority, and traditional hierarchy. And they also believed that perks should follow tenure. Things like private offices were a reward for loyalty. Baby boomers grew up in a time of prosperity, but also amid social upheaval. Vietnam, the civil rights movement, Watergate. Prior generations labeled this group as self-indulgent, materialistic, and only caring about their own success. But that was a misread. In reality, this generation drove significant post-war economic growth. They pioneered major technological advances, which they don't get a lot of credit for, and they led meaningful social change. In the workplace, just like the silent generations, boomers tend to value loyalty, job stability, seniority, and traditional hierarchies. They favor in-person meetings and phone calls and a good old-fashioned handshake over digital communications. Gen X, however, was forged in an era of uncertainty. AIDS, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the dot-com crash, 9/11. This group was labeled by prior generations as cynical and disengaged, skeptical loners who lacked ambition. In reality, this generation is deeply pragmatic, self-reliant, and adaptable. Gen X gave us the digital revolution. And this was the first generation to question whether career success had to come at the expense of your personal and family life. In the workplace, Gen Xers bring an entrepreneurial and informal mindset. They focus on results and efficiency, not on hierarchy, seniority, or bureaucracy. They demand flexibility, and they will use whatever communication method gets the job done most efficiently. Text, call, in person, it's about function, not form. They will also leave their company quickly if their workplace doesn't meet their expectations for autonomy, diversity, and flexibility. Millennials grew up with the internet, 9/11 and Columbine. This was the first group of digital natives. When entering the workforce, this group was branded as entitled, lazy, unproductive, and unmotivated. In reality, they simply worked differently. They harnessed technology in ways that prior generations couldn't even imagine, and they used this to significantly boost productivity. They demanded purpose from their work, and they surrounded themselves with organizations that aligned with their personal values. In the workplace, they're motivated by the relationship with and the competency of their direct manager, not just the company. They crave responsibility and unique work experiences. Their communication style tends to be digital first and then phone or in person. They demand continuous feedback, and they want their company to invest in them in their professional development. And if their company won't invest in them, they will eventually leave that company. Gen Z has never known a world without smartphones or social media. They've lived through economic turmoil, a global pandemic, and now a fast-changing world shaped by AI and automation. Like the generations that came before them, prior generations are dismissing them. We're saying things like, they're too reliant on tech, they're too sensitive, they're not willing to work hard. But that's not what the data shows. Gen Z is incredibly hardworking. In fact, they are more likely than any other prior generation to work through their breaks and their lunch. They're highly tech savvy, and they expect their employers to not only use and leverage tech, but to value tech. They're culturally aware and they are deeply values driven. In the workplace, they expect instant feedback, authenticity, transparency, and flexibility. And they don't just want professional development, they demand it. And they expect to do it on company time. If their companies will not invest in their professional development, this generation will leave, and they will leave immediately before even finding another job. So the point of all this is that we're managing through distinct value sets, and we're doing it with systems based on a generation that is not actively in the workforce. So to engage today's workforce, we need to recalibrate, organize, work, and manage differently. Manage to outcomes, not just activities or time in the office. Offer shorter meetings more frequently so that we're giving them that constant feedback. We need to modernize by leveraging technology, updating performance systems, and abandoning legacy assumptions. For example, job hopping is no longer a red flag. For Gen Z, it's a career strategy. Feedback is not annual or even semi-annual. It is daily. Flexibility is the new baseline. And we need to invest in our workforce in a way that we have not traditionally done as an industry. We need to prioritize professional development, networking, professional credentials, and continuous learning. Or alternatively, we can build jobs based on rapid, constant attrition. And then finally, we need to empower our team, give them the clarity, agency, autonomy, and trust to drive performance. Give them the goal and let them run. Stay available, check in along the way, and course correct early. Our structures need to evolve because the current workforce doesn't just want to work for us. They want to build something great with us. So where are we headed? The market is stabilizing, economic conditions are improving, technology is advancing, and the next generation of professionals is gearing up to lead. Let's lean into the complexity, embrace the transformation, and build a commercial real estate industry that doesn't just recover, but redefines what's possible. Thank you.